Chinese proverb tells us that if you're patient in one moment of anger, you'll escape 100 days of sorrow. So basically today I'm going to hand you a coupon for thousands of days without sorrow. Don't you dare go. Welcome to the I Am Podcast, where we answer all the questions about spirituality and inner peace that you ever wanted to ask, and where we learn the secrets of humanity and divinity through a better understanding of both. I am your host, Sean Webb. If you're interested in being more spiritual, you get the right place, because this is a spirituality podcast. That said, in our human existence, there's a ton of stuff that blocks us humans from being that awesome, divine, peaceful, spiritual self within us. And so at present, we're discussing those blockers in our Body, Mind, Spirit 101 series. It's here that we cover the basics we need to know to have a common vocabulary so as to make our lives awesome in future episodes. This is episode 11. If you haven't seen episodes 2 forward, go watch them. You're going to need them to get the most out of this episode. To review, in episodes 2 through 10, we introduced the Body, Mind, Spirit model. Then we dove right into understanding the mind, discussing the 4 components that make up the emotional influence system, and we started covering how these explain the negative emotions out here. And why is this important? Because the fact is, if we break just one of these 4 components here, all negative emotions cease to exist. And that helps us more easily uncover our spirituality. And as always, you can get all these diagrams for free in PDF form at iamspirituality.com. Today we're at the point where we define another individual emotion group, and today's group is anger. Now, I looked this week to see the latest of what psychology knows about anger, and frankly, psychology knows little when it comes to anger thanks to its misunderstandings of the ego. If you'd like to understand the ego better, see episodes 2 and 5. But we're not going to waste time with how psychology is wrong. We'll just present the correct version and let you judge for yourself. So here now is the new definition of anger, the process of how anger comes to be in the mind, and some great examples that prove it out. Anger is really easy to understand when you understand the new definition of ego. As we discussed in episodes 2 and 5 and a few other episodes moving forward, ego is the mind's perception of self. It's the laundry list of things that your mind attaches to when it tries to define you and your world, to include things like your body, your thoughts, your expectations, your family, your job, your possessions, your other mindful attachments like your politics, your religion. All these things you attach to are by definition part of your mind's perception of your existence, your mind's perception of self. And so anger is the emotion that comes about when something on that list that your mind doesn't want to release is attacked from an outside the ego's source. Let's look at an example that we used previously. Okay, so let's say as part of your ego, you've decided after much deliberation that you have an interest in politics and have sided with being a Democrat or Republican, which becomes a portion of your ego. So that's part of your definition of self. I am Democrat/Republican. So then someone comes along and says, Democrats/Republicans suck, and you get angry. And here's exactly why you get angry. The ego is connected to the equation of emotion, which we talked about in episode 4. So when someone attacks something that is connected with your ego, it challenges the perfection of the definition that the mind has generated for you, which the mind cannot allow. So this then feeds into the equation of emotion. Your default expectation or preference is that your definition of self is perfect, but now someone is challenging that fact, which becomes your perceived reality. There's a difference between the two, the EP and the RP, so thanks to episode 4, we now know a negative emotion will be generated. And because it is the specific definition of anger, that anger is the emotion that results from a perceived external attack on the ego's valuation, thus you feel the anger within you as the result. I'm a Democrat/Republican. Yeah, well, Democrats/Republicans suck. Anger arises. I am a Muslim/Christian. Yeah, well, Muslims/Christians suck. Anger. Or let's say someone strikes your child. Your child is a portion of your world that you are very attached to. Big portion of your ego. Now somebody's got to hit the ground. And this definition of anger works 100% of the time, even in situations you might not think it does. Let's say you're hanging a picture, and in the process of driving the nail into the wall, you hit your thumb with the hammer. Ow! And a lot of people will get angry or upset in this situation. From your mind's perspective, it creates the anger because the hammer is an outside source that has caused an unexpected pain to occur in your body, something that is by default within the walls of your mind's ego, its understanding of self. Thus, it's an external attack on something that the mind doesn't want to give up, obviously, and some level of anger is the result of you smacking your thumb. If you get angry when your team loses the big game, it's because the attachment to your team is part of the definition of your personal world. When a devaluation occurs there, you're not wanting to admit that your team sucks, and by association that you suck. Therefore, anger. Another couple examples. Your spouse cheats on you, and you get furious. Why? Well, because it's an external attack on your mind's idea of you, your ego. Or somebody cuts you off in traffic, which pisses you off. Why? Well, it's because that action of the other driver is basically saying, hey, I'm more important than you are. Get the hell out of my way. F you, buddy. Asshole. See episode 7 on why you want to call him an asshole, by the way. Or how about at work, where you get mad because your boss is always criticizing your efforts, when in reality, you're doing the best you can. Well, your job is part of your mind's understanding of your world, and that criticism is an attack on your mind's world. Therefore, anger is the result. And remember, this isn't how you think about it. You don't think, well, my boss attacked my work, so I must get angry. Or someone said my politics suck, so I must get angry. No, this is how your mind sees it, right? And how your mind reacts just under the surface because your ego's running the show in there. And again, harkening back to episode 8, how attached you are to your mindful ideas are what lessens or increases the intensity of the anger in all situations. See, this stuff isn't even hard, is it? 100% of the time, anger is a perceived external attack on something on your ego list that your mind doesn't want to devalue or let go of. And again, why is it important that we know all this stuff, and specifically this process about anger? Because knowing the process of how anger is created allows us to break that process. And why would that be important? This is where you should really pay attention now. Because the fact is that anger is the basis for a lot of society's ills in large. And if we break the process of anger in people, those ills start to get decreased. The emotion of anger causes school bullying, for instance. Gee, have we heard about that in the news lately? It causes child abuse, it causes spousal abuse, and the entire need for battered women's shelters. It causes rape, it causes racism, it causes road rage, it causes murders of passion. It, by definition, causes all hate crimes. It causes genocide. It causes every bit of news coming out of the Middle East, and a lot of times, with other contributing factors, it can cause war. How'd you like to be a part of solving some of those issues, right? Let's make a real difference in the world. Let's teach our kids this stuff so that our grandkids can inherit a world with less human atrocities. How about that idea? Let's get some people on board with this stuff, because without you and without other people like you, none of these positive changes can occur. Now, that said, I know why you're here, and realistically, you and everyone else that we enlist will not be able to operate efficiently if we don't first cure you of your anger, so now I will address that topic. Getting yourself through anger brings us to our twofold path that we talked about over the last couple of weeks. The first path is that we work on anger from a mindful awareness perspective. We understand the process that creates anger. Okay, got it. We get intimately familiar with our egos and try to bring our awareness out of our egos on as many opportunities as is humanly possible. Okay, working on that. We look at our anger when it arises, because that pulls our awareness out of our ego at a very critical time when that needs to happen, and you're feeling anger. We'll learn how to do that better as we move forward. And then our second path is to break one of these 4 components here, because when that happens, anger cannot occur, period. And someone, please, send me an Oxford or Harvard or other psychology professor so we can accelerate this process of learning, please. Thank you. If you look on the internet The latest, greatest articles on anger talk about letting it subside and talk about just release it without really telling you how. Well, here's how. If you release the attachment to whatever idea it is about yourself that was offending you, your anger will immediately dissipate. Similarly, if you release your attachment to the memory of the moment, your anger will immediately dissipate, i.e., forget it intentionally. If you quit identifying with the false self of your ego, the anger will retire. If you quit seeing the action or situation as an attack that potentially devaluates you, the anger will cease. And yes, you'll have to do these things over and over again until we actually break one of these components, but you can reduce your anger immediately. And we'll cover this again later with tons of real-life examples, but if you don't understand any portion of this emotional influence system and how it works, go back and watch episodes 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, and then you can skip back up here to 11 and watch anger again. And if you still don't get it, send me an email with your question. I respond to everyone personally. This is important stuff, kids. It can literally change the world. Sean Webb at IamPodcast.com. You can live without anger in your life, and you can learn how to diffuse it in others, by the way. If you don't quite get it today, stick around. We'll hit it over and over and over again through various discussions. I am the spiritual enlightenment and inner peace for dummies guy, and I only say that because I used to be one of those dummies. I will get you there. Okay, homework. Share this episode with as many people as possible. Period. One man shouting is nothing in comparison to millions of people speaking quietly in unison. I can't accomplish anything without you on the team. Next, download the unabridged audiobook Happiness by Matthew Ricard. He's a French-born Buddhist monk and provides a good foundation for some of the stuff that we're going to expand on in the future. You can get it for free from audible.com by signing up for a 14-day free trial at www.audibletrial.com/IamSpirituality. I mean, where else can you get the author of a book to read you what they wrote for $2 an hour? Nowhere. audibletrial.com/IamSpirituality. If you sign up with them, they help pay for our bandwidth, which at this point is friggin' mind-boggling. Twitter, twitter.com/IamSpirituality. Facebook, facebook.com/IamSpirituality. Next week, we're going to explain sadness. How would you like to understand that and eventually get rid of it? See you next week. Peace.